The book speaks about US and India being close allies. And if you read the book, there is a character that resembles the Indian Prime Minister. There's a character that resembles Donald Trump. Now, of course, I'm not going to reveal what happens in the book, but Suhail, your favorite topic. In reality, which is more stranger than fiction, with Joe Biden taking over the presidency and people going, "We did it, Joe." How does that affect India and US's relationship and the global challenges that India has to navigate across the world and in its neighborhood with a Joe Biden presidency?
So let's go back into Indo-US relations and the historical context. Democrats should have been our natural allies, but it's always the Republicans who do more for India when they are presidents. Obama came on 2 trips. Clinton loved the food at Bukhara, but it was George W. Bush who signed the Indo-US nuclear deal. So there's a historical context to how the Republicans have always warmed up to the idea of India because they've been more capitalism and capitalist oriented. They're not ideologically aligned because there is no ideology that America follows other than the what we call the Benjamin. Number 2, I think India's relationship with the United States is president neutral or president agnostic. It really doesn't matter who the president is because there are 2 things that are at play. Number 1 is the power that we have or supposedly have in the region. So, how we are the dominant power in this region, the subcontinent. And number 2 is the actual pressure when required, the Indian diaspora within the US exerts and exudes. 3 or 4 days ago, there was a newspaper report to say that the Indian diaspora is the wealthiest and the most influential amongst all ethnic diasporas in the United States. Now, forget Kamala Harris, who's an absolute disaster. Biden, to my mind, is nothing but an establishment stooge. He's always been a Washington guy, the same person or the same character that the Trumps of the world denounce, saying that these people are so wedded to Washington that their worldview is both limited and extremely self-serving. I believe that 2 things have happened, and it's interesting that Tuhin and Clark are here. And obviously, Abhijit is the expert on this, but the point I'm making is that India needs to recognize that beyond a point, America is no one's friend, and neither should it be expected to be. America is a self-serving nation, which is primarily in the business of making money. Now, Abhijit mentioned about economics, and where he said that, his forte is not economics. Let me give you a small example, and I want Clark and Tuhin to come in on this. If you ask the elite or the wealthy, the so-called wealthy, middle class above in India, everyone will have $10, $20, $30, which they save when they come back from a trip.
That's true.
$2.3 trillion is claimed to have been spent in Afghanistan. They're saying about 2, 3, 4 billion would be in currency. India is not exactly one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Take that example of what I've said of residual dollar currency available, and now amplified by the number of countries that are dotting the world, whether it's the continent of Africa and the countries therein, blah, blah, blah. You will see that at least about $1 trillion to $2 trillion currency value is outside the United States, which never comes back into the US system. Right. So when people say, oh my God, the US has spent so much money, will it have an inflationary impact? No. 2/3 of the treasury bonds is today owned by China. Has it had any impact? Could Trump have taken that risk if that impact would have been felt domestically? No. So we are looking at an economic powerhouse that has always created self-insulation. It has been insulated from the vagaries of what I call economic disruption across the world. What happened in 2008? They just printed more currency. You had TARP. Right. What did Paulson do? His advice to George W. Bush was, we'll print more money. We'll do TARP and let everyone collapse and then we'll see. So if to answer your question in a more specific way, therefore, is that yes, economic compulsions often drive nations to do the things they do. Everyone says Bin Laden attacked New York, blah, 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 to send the world a message. No, he hurt America where it hit it the most. He hurt them in the economic domain.
That's
The
right.
symbolism of the World Trade Center towers 1 and 2 collapsing was to bring about an economic dent, which he did. If you remember, US airspace was closed, billions of dollars were spent on security within the United States, but then the United States, being the United States, used their own security companies, whether it's Halliburton, Westinghouse, name it. I mean, Abhijit would know the list, to basically recover. So my
That's right.
point is that Indo-US relations will always remain impervious to any dramatic occupants of the White House. But we have to recognize that Republicans are far kinder, far more compassionate, and more empathetic of India than the Democrats have been. And the list is endless. Jimmy Carter, he said, "Oh, my mother served in India, worked with Mother Teresa." Ghenta, did nothing for India. Obama, nothing for India. Bill Clinton, nothing for India.
They're
So
good
that's
at
how,
photo ops.
yeah.